Welcome to JoyNews Desk. I'm Maame Nyamekye Thompson. We are live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125. In the headlines, government rules out cancelling the AKSA Energy agreement, saying it could expose the state to a costly judgment debt. So will Ghana keep the deal or reconsider it? We have details coming up. Also, Deputy Attorney.
I understand that concern, and I appreciate that they believe that it should be cancelled. But law doesn't work that way.
Also, Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Sremsai has also been explaining why the Sedinatiano stay of execution was withdrawn. Also on our desk, Accra High Court stays proceedings in a trial involving former NPA boss Mustafa Abdul Hamid and 7 others, pending the decision of the Supreme Court on an injunction application challenging the Chief Justice's directive for selected trials to continue during the legal vacation. We'll tell you the story of Emma, a child longing for a classroom, a safe home, and the chance to simply be a child.
Maame said, Maame go school. I see me to me bo. Na sika no on pay.
And much later in the bulletin, we'll tell you which 10 new schools have finally broken through to the national championship stage of the National Science and Math Quiz.
I'm so excited. I don't even know how to express myself.
Michelle Latte's report airs in a bit. These plus some business updates on our desk today. In our first story, Deputy Attorney General Justice Sremsai has ruled out cancelling Ghana's power agreement with Turkish energy company AKSA Energy, despite the recent conviction in the United States of former Goldman Sachs banker and former Tema oil refinery boss Asante Kwaku Beko. A U.S. federal jury on August 6 found Mr. Beko guilty of conspiring to pay and paying more than $1 million in bribes to Ghanaian government officials to secure the power project. The conviction sparked calls from civil society asking for a review of the power deal. But Justice Sremsai says terminating the agreement could expose the state to financial liabilities, including potential judgment debt.
Should the AKSA deal be cancelled now on the back of this conviction?
That will require a lot of legal...
Civil society says it's a natural consequence of this conviction.
You see, it doesn't really... I understand that concern, and I appreciate that they believe that it should be cancelled. But law doesn't work that way. You can take a decision which will become judgment debt issue. So what we will do is review the entire agreement and see to what extent it could be vitiated by what happened. We've not done that yet.
If it was procured through fraud, then it vitiates
the
entire
point. But you need to
law.
establish that this is what happened. You know, and bribery is not necessarily fraud. You know, that at least from the eyes of the law, there's a different meaning when you say bribery and there's fraud. These are two different legal concepts. But I understand that yes, they want it to be cancelled. But I also want to let them understand that from a lawyer's perspective, you cannot just cancel a contract because someone has been convicted as paying bribe. You need to do further diligence to be able to come to that conclusion. And I believe that will be done once the investigations are concluded and the facts are well established. We will advise the government.
There's a local leg of investigations and the process that they use.
Dr. Justice Sremsai also explained why government withdrew its application for a stay of execution at the Court of Appeal before the court could rule on the matter on the Sedam Atieno case.
It simply says, grant me bail to be out there because I won't run away. So let me be out so that you decide to appeal. It's pretty easy for the prosecution. So when we sought advice from our attorneys, they said, no, there's no sufficient, there's no special circumstance to warrant an accused person to be brought out. And then later when the appeal fails, you take him back in to start the sentence. So
and an appeal can take quite a while to resolve. So you're expecting that he's going to be behind bars until that is determined on appeal.
Yeah, so the thing about appeal is that it is the appellant's job to fast track appeal. So appeals work in two ways. If I am the appellant in this case and I'm the accused person's lawyer or the convict's lawyer, I will do everything to fast track the appeal because these are the timelines. Once you file your appeal, the first thing you do is to compile records of appeal from the lower courts, and then you forward it to the appellate court. That is entirely in your hands. If you want to wait for 2 months to compile it, because the registries, they don't go on vacation, so they can compile it anytime for you to. So depending on how you fast track that, your appeal will end up in the Court of Appeal sooner than anybody would think. And then when is there are timelines. Once there's something called Form 6, or that is in civil case, but in criminal there's no such. It's a different process. But you go to the court summons you come there, and then they give you timelines. And usually it's just 21 days for you, the appellant, to file your address. You can file it on day 1 instead of waiting for the 21 days. You can file it on day 1 and serve it on your other party. The respondent has 21 days from the day of service. So if you want it fast, you can file it on day 1.
Have you been served that?
No.
You've not been served.
The record is not even in the Court of Appeal.
Okay.
As far as we know, nobody has, the record is not before the Court of Appeal. So another side of the case is that if you secure, it's like a client who secures an injunction and then goes to sleep. So you are building on my land or on a land that is in dispute, and I go for an injunction against you. I know deep down that I don't have, title, but I just want to frustrate you. Once I get an injunction, I go to sleep. And then the injunction is working against you while I sit down and cross my legs. So it's possible that you can get bail pending appeal, and he will refuse to move forward appeal, and the record will stay in the high courts. He's on bail. And then it delays the process. So appeals could actually be fast-tracked depending on the council's interest.
Well, away from the Deputy Attorney General, we go to the Accra High Court. We understand has adjourned proceedings in the high-profile case involving former Chief Executive Officer of the National Petroleum Authority, Mustafa Abdul Hamid, and 7 others to August 27 following an injunction filed by a Member of Parliament for Foasia Yorubi Kojo upon Nkrumah challenging the directive issued by the Chief Justice for selected courts to continue trials during the legal vacation. The NPA case becomes the latest to be halted by the injunction after proceedings in the Buffer Stock and National Signals Bureau cases were also stayed on Monday. Legal Affairs correspondent Fatal Bayaga joins us live from court. So, Fatal, take us through the courtroom. What really transpired?
So basically, today was meant for case management conference on this high-profile case where the lawyers, in fact, lawyer for Mustafa Abdul Hamid, Joseph Franklin himself in court, other lawyers in court, and then we also have who is the principal state attorney at the OC, also in court with her colleagues. So in fact, they were getting ready for the case to be called, and then one of the clerks walked into the courtroom and basically said that the judge, Francis Apanga Chibonga, has adjourned the case to the 27th of August because of that injunction application, which is now pending before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will hear this on Thursday. So basically, because of that, the judge had to adjourn proceedings. So in fact, today he didn't even step out of his office to the courtroom himself. He just gave the orders to the clerk to deliver that to the lawyers that the case isn't coming on, and for that reason, he adjourned the case to the 27th of August. And in fact, after that proceeding, I engaged the lawyer for Mustafa Abdul Hamid, Joseph Franka, who basically said that he is quite convinced he doesn't want to prejudice the case, the Maame case before the Supreme Court, but he's quite certain that whatever Kojo Nkrumah has put in that suit, which is before the Apex Court, it will be upheld because he believes that what the Chief Justice did is unconstitutional. It's something that hasn't happened, in this country, and for that reason, he's quite certain that it will go through. He also spoke about the fact that the Deputy Attorney General has been talking about the fact that they intend to expedite the delivery of justice in these cases. It's not because we are trying to hound or convict members of the opposition party. But he said that basically what he said is that the Constitution doesn't just allow for selected cases to be expedited, but all cases must be expedited. So the Deputy Attorney General should have also taken note of the fact that there are many cases across the country that should have also been in court, instead of just selecting a few cases involving opposition members.
Bayaga, how did the prosecution react to the ruling?
So for the prosecution, led by Adelaide Cobury-Wood, who came from the OSP office, for them, they did not react to it, outside the court proceedings, but in the court, basically, based on their reaction to it, they said this is an injunction, this is a constitutional step taken by a member of parliament, and they are waiting for the Supreme Court to make a decision on this matter. If that happens on Thursday, they are ready to be back in court on the 27th of August for the case management conference, which is also known as the pre-trial in this high-profile case.
Right. Grateful, and that's Fatah Bayaga reporting from the courts. Moving on, while most children in Accra wake up to the sound of alarm clocks and prepare for school, 13-year-old Ima begins his day beneath the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. His bed is a piece of torn cardboard, his roof is a concrete overpass, and the streets he never chose have become the only home he knows. Forced into begging with his mother to survive, Ima watches his peers head to school while holding on to a dream of becoming a law enforcement officer. There's more in this report.
The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, estimates that 150 million children worldwide live or work on the streets, exposing them to abuse, exploitation, violence, and deprivation. In Ghana, 61,000 of such children live in the capital city, Accra, and are faced by same reality, raising urgent concerns about child protection and the country's commitment to securing their future. As the first light of day spreads across Accra, the city slowly comes alive. Parents prepare their children for school, but beneath one of the city's busiest bridges, another day begins very differently. A year ago, Ajua left Koforidua with her son Ima, hoping to build a better life in Accra. She believed the capital would offer her a job and a chance to provide for her family. But the opportunities she hoped for never came. With no stable income and a decent shelter to lay their heads, the streets became their only refuge. 13-year-old Ima wakes up to torn pieces of cardboard which served as his bed throughout the night. Beside him is his mother, Ajua. Together, they sleep on a worn-out mat spread across the cold concrete beneath the Kwame Nkrumah Circle interchange. For them, this is home. It houses their bed and clothing, aside providing them shelter. The two, according to hawkers, have lived here for the last 1 year and more. Every morning, Ima follows his mother through the busy streets of Circle, maneuvering traffic and crowds in search of benevolent individuals to spare him a coin or two. For him, it is the only way they can survive momentarily. Around him, his age mates walk briskly to school, carrying backpacks and lunch boxes. Ima watches them with admiration. He dreams of sitting in a classroom one day and believes education could change his life. His dream is to become a law enforcement officer.
Maame go school. See me to me bo. Na sika no on pay. Sika no be 27. Mama go school. Me madam for go school. Abo I am fair no. So we go school. Nam be di fair. Nam ye police.
3 days after our first encounter, nothing has changed. He's still in the same shirt and walking the same streets. For Ajwa, every day is a painful reminder of a dream she is grappling to achieve. She says her son's education is now her biggest priority. According to the 2021 population and housing census, an estimated 57% of Ghana's population is 25 years and below. A significant proportion of these are adolescents between 10 to 19 years. Ima belongs to this bracket. For many of such children living in street situations, access to education, healthcare, shelter and protection remains uncertain. As daylight fades, the dangers become even more apparent. Busy roads, unfamiliar faces, exposure to harsh weather, violence, abuse, exploitation, trafficking, disease. Hilda Mensah is a child protection specialist at UNICEF. According to her, the trend shows the scale of challenge and the urgent need for intervention.
In 2011, the Greater Accra Social Welfare Office undertook some research. They found out that 61,000 children are living on the streets in Accra alone. So if you were to get a sense of what happens in other major cities, that will give you a cause for worry. And what happens to these children on the streets, your guess is as good as mine.
Government institutions and civil society organizations continue to rescue, rehabilitate and reintegrate children through shelters, counseling, education support and family reunification programs.
Today, as I speak, we have 236 children in our 4 villages. Even in 2020, we had as many as 685 children. But because we are aligning with the government care reform initiative, we needed to reduce the numbers in the villages. This doesn't mean we are reducing the number of children we are supporting in the country. We are now expanding our support in the communities. As we speak now, we have over 15,000 children being supported in Ghana in various communities.
Ime's story is one shared by thousands of children whose dreams are overshadowed by the daily struggle to survive. Until every child has a safe home, access to education, and the opportunity to simply be a child, Ghana's streets will continue to tell depressing stories that demand urgent action. This story is brought to you by SOS Children's Villages in Ghana in partnership with JoyNews with funding from the Norwegian Agency for Development Corporation, NORAD.
Interesting story there. Well, joining me for more on this is God Knows Boha. He's National Youth Development Advisor SOS Children's Village. Grateful for your time on our desk this morning. Well, this is a very sad one. I was here wishing that I could take care of him. But how is SOS Children's Village responding to the growing risk of child labor, neglect, and also trafficking, particularly among children who could be going to school?
It's a pleasure joining you this morning. Good morning to you and your cherished viewers. SOS, as a social development organization, we believe that every child deserves to live in a safe, loving, and caring families with access to education and protection. Our response is rooted in prevention, and the best way we think we have to protect children from labor, neglect, and trafficking is to strengthen families where they come from. We have various interventions for children who are in vulnerable situations. One of such programs is through Family Strengthening Program, which is our community intervention program. By the design of the program, we build the capacity of the families in the community through livelihood support so that they can engage in sustainable income generation to support the household. By doing that, they are able to earn income to send their children to school, provide them with shelter, to also provide them with hair care and then protection. We also give them positive parenting skills so that they can try as much as possible to avoid abuse, all forms of abuse to the children in their care. Aside that, we also do a financial literacy program for the caregivers. We also try as much as possible to also build the capacity of young people also coming from the same families and the community. Aside that, we have a youth empowerment program. The aim of the youth empowerment program is to build the capacity of young people in the household so that young people can develop their skills, their talents. By doing that, they will be able to engage in sustainable income generating activities and then also be able to look after themselves and then contribute to the socioeconomic development of this country. We also have another program which is an alternative care program. By the design of the program, children who have lost parental care are brought into our various villages from Tema through Kumasi, Esiakwa, and Tamale, and then the families that have been reintegrated in the community.
Right.
We provide these children with care. We provide them with quality education, and then we also safeguard them so that they can grow to become responsible citizens in the country.
Right. And you've mentioned a myriad of programs that you undertake. In Ima's case, where he has his mother with him, however, the economic, muscle to take care of him as well as send him to school is lacking. So in this situation where this young man is willing to learn, to go to school and become responsible, what program is suitable for him?
Yeah, I think this is the reason why we are actually doing this in partnership with JoyNews. As I have already outlined, there are various program interventions we can enroll Emmanuel, and Emmanuel is not the only one. It's something we have been doing for young people, and Emmanuel can also benefit from such program. As we speak now, we have supported over 15,000 children across the country, and one of such programs we can put Emmanuel in is to support Emmanuel to go to school, also support the family, the caregiver, give the caregiver a livelihood support so that the caregiver can become economically independent. By becoming independent, the caregiver can support Emmanuel to continue to also support the support will be given to Emmanuel. Now, after Emmanuel has grown into the stage of a youth or a young person, will enroll Emmanuel into our youth development program. Under the program, Emmanuel will benefit from education and skills development. He will also benefit from career guidance and support. He will also benefit from opportunities such as mentorship, internship, job shadowing, so that Emmanuel will develop all the needed skills to become a very responsible person to support this, our dear country. And as I indicated, we have done this for a number of young people. We have rescued a number of young people from the streets. And today, as I speak, some of them have completed university, some of them are in university, and some of them are still in the basic and secondary school education. And we will continue to support them until they become self-reliant.
Right. And I would like to know, have you interacted with Emmanuel? What have you made of his reaction to the program you're advancing to take him on?
Yeah, I must say it's a gradual process. We have approached Emmanuel, and Emmanuel is willing. Normally, because they have been in this situation for some time, it's like they are used to the situation they find themselves in. But through guidance and counseling, we are trying to get him off the situation he finds himself in now, so that we can give him all the needed support together with the counseling, so that he'll become a better version of himself.
Right. What more needs to be done by, your outfit as well as government, or even other stakeholders, to strengthen families and prevent a situation like Emmanuel finds himself, or even child separation from their parents, and also ensure that children like that are protected from exploitation?
Thank you for the question. I think this should be a wake-up call to all of us as a country, that we have a social problem on our hand, and all of us must put our shoulders to the wheel to arrest this situation. We as SOS see this as a security threat to the country, and we believe that we as organization, with the needed support in terms of resources, we can scale up our impacts to reach out to more children and young people across the country, so that young people across the country will become a better version of themselves. We also believe that government should also increase social investments they should invest more into the social protection space, so that they can support more vulnerable families, so that those families will become more economically empowered to support their dependent children. We also believe that together with the like-minded organization, such as the media, the good work you are doing, we also need the media to come on board, so that we can throw more light on the plight of these children, so that duty bearers will understand the situation we have on our hand, so that together with the corporate entities, the private sector will also come on board, so that they can join forces with organizations such as SOS Children Villages in the development space, so that together we can come out with programs that will build the capacity of vulnerable families, that will enhance the capacity of children, and that will enhance the capacity of young people who find themselves in a vulnerable situation. I must say that children have not chosen to be on the streets. It is because of circumstances which are beyond their control that have actually pushed them to find comfort in the streets. If we give them the right opportunity, if we give them the right intervention, these children will grow up to become responsible citizens, even more than some of us are doing now.
Thank you so much for your time on our desk.
You're welcome.
Let's move now to Parliament, where the minority is holding a press conference on the state of Gold Board.
Country. Gold Board. and the perils it poses to our country's economy. The caucus would like to make it very clear. We did not call you here to trade insults. We called you here because Ghanaians deserve the truth about Gold Board. Plain truth in plain language. And on behalf of the caucus, I would want to share with you something you've been waiting for. A week ago, the chief executive of Gold Board went on social media space. He said the concerns of the caucus come from bitterness. He called us bitter. He said he could hear hatred in our voice. But we have this to say to him and the institution he heads. We are concerned for our country, and there is a difference. The head of an institution accused of losing 22 billion Ghana cedis plus in 1 year should not be talking about our tone. He should be talking about his leisure. Ghanaians can see exactly where the weakness lies. According to the Gold Board, other voices can be taken seriously, not ours. But we want to make it clear. Nothing said by us is personal. Every figure we are about to give you comes from the IMF. It came from their own report on Ghana, published this very month. If IMF facts sound personal to the Gold Board and its officials, the problem is not ours. The problem is what the facts say. Government has not publicly objected to the findings in the report. Ladies and gentlemen, let me open this by setting the record straight, because 1.7 billion losses do not belong buried in a footnote. It belongs in the open, where the people who own it can see. And let us be clear about what that figure is. It is not accounting fiction. It is not a rounding error. It is a real loss generated from the activities of Gold Board, sitting on the books of Bank of Ghana, generated entirely by the gold purchasing and gold trading operations carried out by Gold Board, the sole institution Parliament mandated to buy, sell, weigh, grade, assay, value and export our gold. The IMF has already told the country where this loss comes from. In its own words, the losses, quote, are a combination of service and asset fees paid to Gold Board, discount on gold sold to off-takers, into bracket exporters, and most importantly, exchange rate losses from the spread between Forex Bureau rates paid to purchase gold and the cedi reference rate used for BOG accounting, end quote. This can be found in paragraph 13 of the IMF report. This is not our characterization. That is the IMF's. And those involved in fact check can check. So here is a question Gold Board must answer. If every one of those service fees and asset fees were collected and kept, why should the losses that came bundled with earning them belong to someone else? You do not get to keep the fees and disown the cost. This is not accounting. That is convenience. And who exactly are these off-takers Gold Board sold discounted gold to? The country deserves an answer. Gold Board is happy to take credit for the foreign exchange it claims to have generated, but it goes quiet the moment we ask about the very trade, the discounted sales, the fee arrangement that produced that forex in the first place. You cannot claim the upside of a trade and disown its downside. And let us also be honest about where the real conversation lies. We, the minority, are not here to relegate the profit of Gold Board. The profit Gold Board has published in its own account. We are here because what happened off the books, the operations, the fee structures, the discounted sales that made that profit possible in the first place. Substance must always be judged over form. Gold Board took Bank of Ghana's money to assay gold and collect its fees. It cannot claim the credit that comes with the revenue while pushing every loss into Bank of Ghana's balance sheet. This is precisely why Bank of Ghana has decided to stop Gold Board's gold purchasing operation going forward. The losses generated by Gold Board's own purchasing, pricing, and sales decision can no longer sit on the bank's books while Gold Board enjoys the credit. What we are witnessing is a disingenuous accounting arrangement, clean on the surface, dirty in substance, and it is ordinary Ghanaian taxpayer who is left carrying the risk. That ends today. We are asking straightforward questions, and we expect straightforward answers. Who are the off-takers? Why were sales discounted? And why is the mandate to trade gold on the country's behalf producing losses the country was never told about? Now, let me deal with the numbers Ghana cannot ignore. The IMF tells us that 17% of the value of every ounce of gold sold by the Bank of Ghana simply disappeared. It vanished into the gap between the rates paid to miners and the rate used for the books. Add the fees paid to the middlemen. Add the discounts handed to off-takers. This is not rounding error. This is not teething trouble. This is a structural bleeding of our national purse. And it was not the opposition that found it. I repeat, it was the IMF's own economists. And the government has accepted that indeed these losses are true. Now look at what this bleeding has done to our central bank. By the fund's own numbers, the Bank of Ghana's equity stood at negative 93.8 billion cedis at the end of last year, negative 6.7% of GDP. Our central bank is technically bankrupt, therefore. And the single biggest driver of that collapse in the 2025 was gold operations, Gold Board. Gold Board's own domain, 22 billion cedis. That's equivalent of the 1.7 billion US dollars in 1 year alone. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, let's call it what it is. These losses are not bad luck. You don't trade in gold and make losses. They are not a difficult market. They expose the crass incompetence of Gold Board's management and misaligned policy of the government. No serious institution loses this much money by accident. This is what happens when an untouchable few are handed the nation's gold with no one watching and no one willing to ask questions. Ghanaians have already sacrificed much to keep this economy standing. We tighten our belt for the sake of stability. That is why it is so painful to watch this scheme quietly give away sums that will make any right-thinking citizens weep. We did not endure hardship so that billions could vanish into unexplained spread and unnamed off-takers. Let us be honest about what $1.7 billion actually means. It is hospitals that will not be built. It is needless maternal death that would not be prevented because the theaters, the blood banks, and the trained hands that could have saved a mother in labor were never funded. It is schools that will not be built. It is poor roads that will not be constructed. Roads that claim life every week. It is water treatment facilities that will not be constructed. Even as our people's water is poisoned by galamsey, this government has failed to control. Every one of these is Ghanaian life diminished by a loss that does not have to happen. Now, let me emphasize that the latest IMF report, which is the IMF's sixth and final review of Ghana's extended credit facility program, completed on 10th of July 2026, concerning the financial consequences of the NDC government's domestic gold purchase program. According to the IMF, this domestic exchange program, which the Bank of Ghana accumulated gold and intermediated foreign exchange to the private sector, generated, for emphasis, $1.7 billion US dollars, which is the equivalent of 22 billion in 2025 alone. So you are looking at approximately 1.5% of Ghana's entire gross domestic product. And again, we are not ignorant. We are not speculating. We are not a manufacturing allegation. It is not partisan interpretation. It is a finding reported by the IMF after examining Ghana's economic and financial program, and it demands honest answers. Let me have this. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, this is a summary of the IMF report. After the bulky report, they came out with this, which is the selected issues dated August 2026. International Monetary Fund, IMF country report number 26/213. Those who are doing fact check. And it says, International Monetary Fund, Washington, D.C. This has been accepted by government, and government is acting on the concerns raised by the IMF. And to those who are thinking that the Gold Board has not incurred any losses because they decided to use Bank of Ghana as its alter ego. When I say alter ego, what I mean is that you use another institution to carry all your burdens on your behalf. So you appear clean. So you can conveniently say that the Auditor General has gone through your books and you do not have losses. But the losses were incurred by you. So how can you record profit and the cost is not incurred by you? Who does this? Anyway, the IMF says that, quote, in 2025, the significant scaling up of the domestic gold purchasing program operations led to losses of 1.67 billion US dollars, 1.5% of GDP, almost entirely related to the gold for reserve door purchase. This amounted to a loss of 17% of the value of the door gold sold by BOG. On whose behalf? Gold Board. This is here. It's here. It's there. Paragraph 13. Page 10. And ladies and gentlemen, we need to emphasize something. We, the minority, we work as a team. When the minority leader speaks, he speaks for the party. The party has a political committee we call the tripod. The flag bearer, who is the leader of our party, taking us to Jubilee, the party machinery, and parliament. These three units work together with a policy coordinating chair, my respected colleague Kojo Oponkruma. We coordinate and speak with one voice. It doesn't matter who speaks. So when a matter is raised on policy, a chief executive of an institution cannot choose and single the leader out for insult. In the minimum, the caucus knows it brief and will not speak and blow hot air. That is the report I've shown you. So now the Ghanaian people will see who is ignorant, who is doing mischief, who is lying to the public. We will not just come out and say anything because of partisan convenience. what is happening is bad. There is crisis ahead of us. Our friends must better listen and pay attention and not allow the IMF to rather come and talk to them before they listen. When things go bad in our country, it affects all of us. So we are here to hold their feet to the fire and make them accountable to the people of Ghana. We are not here to trade insults, and that must be clear to them. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, from the transactions arranged between Gold Board and Bank of Ghana, Gold Board was not an uninvolved spectator. It is the very institution with a statutory and operational mandate, as I've said, to buy, sell, weigh, grade, assay, value, and export gold and other precious minerals in Ghana. Therefore, the role Gold Board played in the transaction places significant responsibility on it because, one, Gold Board participated directly in buying, aggregating, assaying, and exporting the gold. Two, Bank of Ghana provided the financing. Three, Gold Board earned fees from the transactions. But when the program generated substantial financial losses, those losses were not reported on the balance sheet of Gold Board. What kind of voodoo accounting is this? Who does this? And then Gold Board wants us to believe that it has not made losses, it is clean, and wants to mislead the people of Ghana. No, that cannot be the truth. The arrangements made require much deeper scrutiny than government has so far been willing to provide. Ghanaians must also remember how this story developed. When initially the Fifth Review raised concerns about the gold program, the discussion centered around an estimated 214 million quasi-fiscal loss identified through the September 2025 report. The IMF explained that losses arose from the trading activities, fees, and exchange rate movement, and specifically called for greater transparency, governance, and risk management around the Gold Board linked channel of the domestic gold purchase program. We were subsequently told that Gold Board itself had made no loss. However, Section 13 of IMF country report, as quoted supra, stated. The real question, therefore, is what did Ghana lose from the transaction? The IMF has now answered the question, which I've quoted supra, for the full year, an equivalent of 22 billion cedis. The Ghanaian taxpayer ultimately stands to lose on this. And now for emphasis and further explanation, the accounting location of a loss does not change its economic reality. This is perhaps the most important point that we, the caucus, want to put across. If Gold Board was legally an agent of Bank of Ghana, there may be a technical accounting basis for recognizing the underlying trade losses at the Bank of Ghana rather than recording them as Gold Board's own corporate losses. But Bank of Ghana is not interested only in which ledger the loss entered. We must ask, who designed the arrangement? Who approved it? Who executed it? Who controlled the risk? And why safeguards failed to prevent losses of this magnitude? An accounting structure cannot be used as a shield against public accountability. If one state institution is responsible for buying, aggregating, assaying, and exporting gold, while another state institution supplies the capital and bears virtually all of the downside, Parliament is entitled to ask whether the risk allocation itself was prudent. And we pose it, whether the risk allocation is prudent. In fact, the structure creates an obvious governance problem, where the entity carrying out the commercial activity receives fees based on transactions, while another institution bears the principal financial risk, incentives can become dangerously misaligned. The institution making or influencing the operational decisions may enjoy the upside of increased volumes and fees without carrying an equivalent share of the downside when the transactions perform poorly. That is precisely why strong risk limits, independent oversight, transparent pricing rules, and clear accountability arrangements were indispensable. The 22 billion outcome raises serious questions about whether those protections were adequate. Now I repeat, Gold Board cannot hide behind accounting technicalities. Gold Board, I must say, is entitled to make the accounting point that it was purchasing gold on behalf of Bank of Ghana. But agency does not extinguish operational responsibility. An agent entrusted with billions of cedis or public resources remains responsible for the quality of its execution. Gold Board's own description of its mandate confirms that it occupies a central position in Ghana's gold trading structure, with exclusive authority over buying, selling, weighing, grading, assaying, valuing, and exporting gold. Therefore, Gold Board must tell Ghanaians the following. 1. What prices were paid for gold? How were those prices determined? What premiums, if any, were paid to secure the supply? How were international off-takers selected? At what discount were those gold sold? How much was earned by Gold Board in service and asset charges from transactions financed by Bank of Ghana? What commercial risk did Gold Board itself bear? What transactional risk were passed automatically to Bank of Ghana? What internal risk controls existed to protect the financier, the Bank of Ghana? What corrective measures were taken as losses accumulated? And most importantly, if Gold Board controlled critical part of the trading process, but Bank of Ghana absorbed losses, where precisely the structure deserves particular attention because it creates what economists and governance professionals will recognize as a potential moral hazard problem. If an institution earns transaction-based income for purchasing, assaying, and aggregating gold, while the financier bears the underlying trading losses, then increasing transaction volumes may increase the agent revenue even where the overall program destroys value for the principal. Any responsible government confronted with this 22 billion loss should immediately investigate whether the incentive structure encouraged excessive volumes, inadequate pricing discipline, or insufficient attention to trading costs. We therefore reject any attempt to answer the public concerns merely by pointing to Gold Board's reported surplus. Yes, we concede that it is the Auditor General that has conducted an audit, but the Auditor General was not given access to the full picture. If the Auditor General knows that indeed the costs of Gold Board's transaction were borne by Bank of Ghana, Auditor General would not declare surplus in its accounting reporting. Therefore, Gold Board profitability and the profitability of the transaction it executed for BOG are two different matters. A middleman can earn a fee while the principal loses money. Really? The question for Ghana is whether the country received value for the risk it assumed. Now, the most damning fact that may be what happened next. Actions often reveal more than explanations. After the experience of the old financial model, now we hear the Bank of Ghana resolved to stop financing Gold Board, all because of what the IMF said. Gold Board itself announced on 11th of August 2026 that it has ended its role as buying agent for the BOG. And since March 2026, it has ceased receiving BOG funds to purchase gold on Bank of Ghana's behalf. Gold Board said it had instead transitioned toward mobilizing financing directly from commercial banks and off-takers. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to pause here and help you with some explanation so that in your reporting, you would also understand the story. It wouldn't be that the minority led by Afenyo Makin is telling a Kokwanense story. We are not telling you a Kokwanense story. If all was well, why are they taking these steps? In fact, the Gold Board Chief Executive said the IMF itself did not understand the transaction. He said publicly that he thinks the IMF doesn't understand. All the economists at the IMF, he said they didn't understand. He accused my friend Kojo Oponkruma, who did BCom at Kivas, that Kojo doesn't understand accounting. I did BCom. Of course, I abandoned Nisam along the line and did my law program. But Kojo completed his BCom. BCom is accounting. He accused Kojo that he doesn't understand accounting. He said this on TV3 program. Then he went on to attack our colleague, the chartered accountant, former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, and chair of the Public Accounts Committee, a fourth termer in Parliament, Honorable Abna Oseyasari, also accused her. Then I took the last hit. But what the Gold Board Chief Executive has forgotten is that when initially the fees were around 15% and the minority raised the first red flag and the press conference was held by our respected colleague Oponkruma on our behalf, there was an immediate emergency board meeting, a joint emergency board meeting by Gold Board and Bank of Ghana, and they quickly reviewed the fees to 9%. That was the first point of vindication of the minority. According to them, we are ignorant. If we were that ignorant, why is it that when we raise a red flag, the 15% that they were charging, they reduced it to 9%? That was the first point. And when we escalated it through a motion on the House floor, they now went further and reduced it to 5%. So the question is, all those initial losses, now we want to put away IMF, all those initial losses, if the charges were legitimate at 15%, why didn't they remain the way they were? So the minority must be commended for saving the public purse. Why the insult? Why the attack? If the IMF is wrong, why the remedial measures? Why are they taking steps to now say that they are moving away from the original model and now they are doing something new? So they must account for the 22 billion losses. It amounts to causing financial loss to the state, and Gold Board is responsible for causing financial loss to the state. The minority will say this firmly and boldly. It doesn't matter the adjectives you use to attack our personality. We know that a day of reckoning will come. They should remember that post-regime accountability awaits them. 22 billion Ghana cedis in just a year. It's not me, it's not Mama Pat, it's not this handsome man standing behind me, it's not this other handsome man, it's not these handsome men who are saying it. It is the IMF. And government has accepted, conceded that indeed these were huge losses. So why the insult? Pourquoi? Minewo. Egomede. Adana mudidi atem. Makoton gold aboka. IMF force sika podu eti say 22 billion maboka. Mwama jia tumuse mwabwaka. Nyabonyumo. Ekakasiya na mwabo Ghana 22 billion cedis. Na ye minority dia oma tro amwa jia tum na ye kan wasem. Na mubedi din atem. Na afanyo maka ye say na opon kroma ti say na abno say asa ti say. Enye wo be ko social media ke didin atem ena be sesa dia IMF atro. Ye ba ye no ye nim se sebe ebinum de omotacha maso no eye doko nti ye de IMF report no bae. Nti ye sremu nsem trofo. Mo waso de kese. Eye nsem a binum be ka nyina na sese mo tie ne sa. Ebinum kan tro. Omu twa ntro so ana omo aye so mom na e ka no kre. Wo to gold. Wo digwa. Wo akoboka. Wo si e ka na wabo no. Wo de akotro wo bi buku mu. Na wo de dia waton na esika na ba wo si wanya mfaso. Nti wo de e ka na ye woka. Na what be that? We be a company mienu. Company ba ko na ye di staff salary ato. And a company ba ko so na ye di sales akoto. Nti ye ba ye si o menya mfaso. Na a kana wo boy and the cost of sales no way. 22 billion. Inti yes semu. Atem di die ne die en sheki. Ba ne kure wo mu ne se. So far se obi akoye adwuma mpo baby. Na sende iyokofo tata no. Iyokofo tata binum. Attorney General ye press conference osio Obimpo oye ayaban adwuma eka 5 million cedis 3 million cedis 10 million cedis yetumi frɛ wo iyoko na wakoda ho na yɛse fa ejapade a asumbo for branch ya mobile na ne go ball for bill de abeye hu si o me ba o we de Sa 22 billion losses here. Almost gold board aboki. And then who bill? Ezika ben na yedi bedi bill. Oh, we as said yet here. Yes, wo we your phone sa. Na wa hwe won sa. We as ya ye wono. Se tumi ba won sem. Na se wo de tata obi a. Hweniye. And this for nam MPP for Bokrono, MPP for Bokrono, MPP 40 say, MPP 40 say. Gold kaka munkotono, gold, munkoton gold. Mokoboka 22 billion cedis. Afibako. Ya kan ya no mu fizo mu didi atemu a. Na ya bohu. Na mu di eti ebubom. Enti no yede de ayeka ne se Nyamekye de parliament ebebie yenua no se ono de op debate yate asesa ye penisa na ye debate bia ye kohye kukuo bie mu aye ye pese ye kai ne se so op debate a go ball for so mu pe debate a omudin kan enkantre majority for no because ye di kan the first motion by no yes yen debate na yema gold board embra na yenye enhwehwemu no majority for no mo say omuntie ensentro for am amunya muni intino parliament bia ye the motion for eba some motion where ye be dealing with the $1.7 billion, which is equivalent of 22 billion, and no, sa ekano and yebe somono gold board one. It is a gold board for some my crowd dia. Omudi can chair new majority leader. Onimnyam for agaga non ti asese. And Kobane so omudi 189 no ebe blocko. Yes, speaker so say emotion no eba. More for technicalities in back. Then Kobane say, "Yeah, approve it. Yeah, ni say for the sake of governance, for the sake of transparency. Omo makwan we, the minority, will not relent on this.
And that's Afenyo Markin from Parliament addressing the media on the state of Gold Board. According to him, Gold Board made losses of 22 billion cedis, according to the IMF report. He asked, the minority is asking how come Gold Board made those losses. According to him, where Gold Board earns fees and another institution, referencing the Bank of Ghana, makes losses, it stinks. And so the minority is asking the Gold Board to come clean on those losses. And that's all we have for you on JoyNews Desk today. We're back at midday with more on news with Emefa Adeti. See you again tomorrow.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabidim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
In Ghana today, when a civil servant is caught in corruption, he is either suspended or dismissed. But when a political leader is caught, all we hear is, oh, we are setting up a committee and let us allow investigations to work. And before you realize, their names have been cleared, quiet. My opponent obviously generated their point from Alibaba.com. Otherwise, they would have discovered that 74% of all corruption cases in Africa are as a result of civil servants and not the politicians, as reported by Transparency International in the year 2022.
The battle of brilliant ideas is back. The 2026 Love FM Cal Chaco Toothpaste High Schools debate is finally here, bringing together the brightest young minds from across the Ashanti region to challenge opinions, defend facts, and inspire a new generation of leaders. Watch students from some of the